In this tutorial, we're going to go over how you can graph a function using the graphing calculator. So anytime you want to graph something on the graphing calculator, the first button you will want to press is the y equals button. You can find this in the top left corner. Into your y equals, you'll see that in this screen, you have several y equals. To graph a function, you only need to fill in one of them. The reason why there are so many is this allows you to graph multiple functions on the same graph. Let's go ahead and graph x squared plus 2x minus 24. Anytime you're graphing something related with x, you want to hit the button that has x, t, theta, and n. In the current mode that it's in, which is in function mode, which is the default mode that the calculator will be in, when you click on that button, it will automatically appear as x. Now we want x squared plus 2x minus 24. So I'm going to hit squared plus 2x minus 24. I'm going to hit enter. And now if I want to see the graph, I'm going to hit the button that says graph. You can find this in the upper right corner. Now when you graph this, this will automatically graph it on what we call the standard window. The calculator has a standard window going from -10 to 10 on the x-axis and -10 to 10 on the y-axis. Now as you can see here, this graph cuts off something on the bottom. We know that this is a parabola of some sort, but because of the standard window that it's graphed on, we're unable to see it. Now there are a couple ways to go about dealing with this. One is to use the zoom function. I want to zoom out. To do this, I will click the zoom button, that's the middle one at the top, and I want to zoom out. To get to the zoom out, we can either go down 2 and then hit enter, or you can simply hit 3. It will now bring you back to the screen, and you will need to determine where you want to zoom out from. Typically from the center is fine, so I'm going to hit enter here. Now it's zoomed out and we can see the parabola. However, you might also notice that it zoomed out in terms of the x-axis as well, even though we didn't necessarily need the x-axis to be zoomed out. So now it might be harder to tell where it goes through the x-axis. If you want to restore it back to the original grid from -10 to 10 and -10 to 10, we call this the standard window. So if you go under zoom and find the item that says Z standard, that means it will zoom to the standard window. Hit enter, and it will go back to the standard window for you. So you can always zoom in and out in order to get a better picture of your graph. Another way to do this is to use the window and simply change the window for yourself. For example, in this case, we just wanted to see more of the y-axis in the negative direction. So since I was good with the x-axis, I'm going to leave the x-axis the same, but for the y-axis I want to change it, so instead of being at -10, maybe I'll bring it down to say -30. To do this, go to Window, that's the button next to Zoom, and you'll see here it says Xmin, Xmax, it looks like it goes from -10 to 10, Ymin, Ymax, that's from -10 to 10. That's your standard window. Now I said I wanted to change the Ymin so that we could see more of what's going on in the bottom. So instead of having -10, I'm going to scroll down here, I'm going to change that to -30. Now I go back to the graph and it should show me just a little bit more of what's going on at the bottom there. And you can see here, instead of zooming out and not being able to see the x-axis as well, I'm able to see the x-axis pretty well, and I can also see where the bottom of the graph is. Now, if you are graphing more than just one function, if you go to y equals, and say you wanted to graph two functions and see how they were different from each other, we're going to scroll down to y2, and I'm going to put in a new function, negative x squared plus 5x plus 24, and I'm going to go ahead and graph this. Now you can see on this particular calculator, any of the CE calculators, you'll be able to see it in a different color. If your calculator doesn't show it to you in color, that's fine. When they graph the two lines, y1 will be graphed first and y2 will be graphed second, so you'll be able to tell which one is which. Again, in this case, it looks like we have a parabola that we're working with that we're kind of missing what's up at the top. So now we might want to play around with the window again, the y max this time. I'm going to make this go up to 50. Now I go back to the graph, and it looks like I can see both graphs pretty well. If you do have the color addition type of graphing calculator, if you go into your y equals, you can actually also set the color in which you want it to graph. Right next to the y equals, you'll see the color on the left, and you can go ahead and click on that to change the color. You can also scroll down to change the type of line that you have. Again, if you are graphing another function, or if you want to reset your graph back to the original standard window, you simply go to Zoom, go down to Z Standard, and it will bring you back to your window from -10 to 10 and -10 to 10 for both x and y.